But I wanted to know why it said upcoming.
Big Bear Homestead Saturday night is live. Big Bear is live. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
We need to go watch Big Bear. April, what's up?
Hola. Oh, hand me the phone so I can send her something real quick.
Oh.
Because you're going to let everybody know this week, correct?
Yes. What's going on, everybody? And welcome to another Saturday night with Big Bear Homestead. For those of you that are new or catching us on the replay, I'm Jason. This is my lovely wife, Robin, who probably deserves, if there's a medal higher than the Congressional Medal of Honor, Robin deserves that for putting up with me and helping me through the years, get through all of the junk. But greetings, salutations, what's up, Geeky Gardens? Hello,
Hey, Mark,
hello.
what's up?
We're glad that y'all came to hang out with us for a little while. So, for those of you that are not members yet and don't get the chance to participate in the after show, last week I'm going to give you guys a little snippet, little squirt, a little behind the curtain. We were talking with the members, and we really got to know a individual. I don't see him in here yet, so I don't know if I can share some of the things that he shared, but there he is. But Mind and Body Company is a Kodiak member, and we got to learn a lot about his business last week in the after show, which is really cool. He's got some really cool stuff going on, and these are the things that you're missing if you're not a member and not part of the after show. So just want to say, y'all might want to go check out his YouTube channel and links to his business with herbs and all kinds of cool stuff. So let's talk about that. So let's just go ahead and mention all of our sponsors. You've got LogOx and their forestry tool kit, which it's that time of year. Ours is out and in the back of the K9, and
not just that, because you haven't mentioned two things that have also been game changers here at the house that are not the forestry tool. LogOx, don't get your feelings hurt that he doesn't remember these things. How do we carry our wood in?
Oh, the sling. Yeah, I don't get to play with those. You girls have. Why am I going to talk about those?
Well, now you're talking about all of our sponsors. You talk about the chickens when it's time for me to talk about chickens.
Yeah, because I'm the one who has to butcher them. Like, duh.
Right.
But yes, it's that time of year where, a lot of us heat our homes with wood, because your safety tip last week was about doing your preventative on your wood burning stoves and your fireplaces. But yes, they do have the hearth. LogOx has the hearth. It's amazing that you can stick your firewood in to be able to keep it inside. And they also have their sling, where you can probably carry 1,000 pounds of wood.
You can carry a lot of wood in one trip.
Yeah.
And Ladessa loves it because she can put that on, because it goes around your back so that you're not you're distributing the weight. And she'll go out and load it up.
Basically, all the weight is on the strap and in the bottom part of the sling, and then your arm that slips through there
just kind of
is just holding it up, so that way it just almost like you're closing a bag. And
very helpful.
Anyways, very good thing.
So that's LogOx.
Yes, that's LogOx. You're probably sitting down beside that fire The firewood that you cut that you brought in with your LogOx sling and it's sitting in your LogOx hearth. And you probably got your laptop and you're on GrowVeg.com planning your garden for the following season.
But while you're doing that, you're using your catalog.
Is this just National Cut Me Off Day before I get going, or what? Because stop thinking.
I was
like me.
under the impression that this was a partnership and that we help each other out. I'm sorry. I will be quiet.
Stop thinking like me. That's where I was going. So you got your firewood and your LogOx hearth that you brought in with your LogOx screen or your sling, and you're sitting there on your computer at GrowVeg.com starting to plan out your garden, and then you reach over and you get your Baker Creek Heirloom seed catalog and you start ordering your seeds that you need for the following year. And as you're doing this, see, you're thinking, maybe I could grow stuff to feed my chickens. And then, of course, if you're anything like Robin, you went, oh, chickens? When chickens entered your brain, you reached over and you grabbed your McMurray catalog and you drained the savings account because you ordered everything in the catalog. So, fast forward to the springtime, you have to get into your Coyote Canine that you purchased from Stack Equipment in order to be able to meet the mail person at the gate to be able to pick up all of your seeds and all of your baby chicks when they come in. And you pull them in and you come down and you unload them while the wife and the kids unload all that stuff. You get on your Coyote tractor and you start to prepare the beds for the years following garden. And once you get that done, then you politely grab your Gallagher gardening kit and you wrap your garden with the electric poultry netting, and you're ready for the following year.
That's it. That sounds about right.
So there's the story of our sponsors. Hope you enjoyed this as we visited the land of make-believe with Mr. Rogers and all the sponsors of Big Bear Homestead. So tune in next week. No, I'm just kidding. And so let me give you guys, since we got that out of the way, paid the bills, give you guys a little bit of a weekly recap of what we done here on the homestead this week. In case you missed it, before I even go there, this is, if you want to be a part of our email list to get notifications because of all of the shadow banning that's going on with preparedness and homestead channels, especially if you mention Jesus, and you still want to see the videos and still want to see the content that we're coming out, we need your email list because we want to send out a notification via email to let you know what content, videos, and stuff that are coming out. Definitely want to get on that list because we are getting ready to launch something else. I believe our members know what I'm talking about. If not, Maybe. They will definitely know in tonight's after show. So you have between now and then to become a member to find out what I'm talking about.
I know what I'm talking
about. And so get on that email list. Send us an email if you want to be on the email list to bigbearfarms@hotmail.com. And was that one the one we were still using that one, or are we going to switch to the other one? I forgot.
I haven't really made a decision. If you want to change it over, we can.
Okay.
Some of you are already set up sending it through Big Bear Farms. And I feel like we still have MailChimp set up through Big Bear Farms. So whenever it does a return email, it's going to come from there.
Yeah.
So let's just stick with that for now until I work out the logistics on that.
No, that, or you can send it to the email list, to the email that April just put up in the chat. That's fine. I check that one pretty regularly too. Did she put crayons after my name?
Yes, she did.
Did she literally put some crayons?
Yes, she loves you.
That's just hurtful. So, this week, let's see. We had the Marine Corps birthday on the 10th. And then we had the Marine Corps ball last night, right?
You were jumping way ahead. We had the Marine Corps birthday like the week before. This week, we had a visit with the VA on Tuesday. And we had a wonderful thing on Thursday with our church that was really cool. And then Friday, which was last night, we had the Marine Corps ball.
Yeah, our church called us a table setter.
It was very cool. You just realized that, Marine?
Yes, the Marine Corps ball was, how can I say this without...
It was a crap show. It was an organized crap show. Poor Jason. Jason's very
no, it's not poor Jason. It's poor Bubba. It's poor Blaze. I don't know if it's just because of the field that he's in, y'all, or what.
Well, he's at a detachment, correct? Like, it basically is, he's...
That's still no excuse, because I was at a detachment when I was at school, and our Marine Corps balls were better.
Okay. I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
The Marine Corps ball is supposed to be formal. It's supposed to be a time of celebration and remembrance. We have a lot of customs, courtesies, and traditions that happen during a Marine Corps ball that have been happening that way for 248 years. And they're there for a reason. And they had their ball on a minor league baseball field.
Under stadium lights.
Our table, I played shortstop.
We were literally between second and third base last night.
We was in the shortstop position last night. At our
in
table.
the dirt, by the way. Like, we're the running path between second and third base. I have the dirt in my shoes to prove it.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
That was a little frustrating.
It was a first for me. It was the first time I ever had a Marine Corps ball outside. It was the first time I ever been to a Marine Corps ball on a baseball field.
I feel like it was a first for everybody because everybody was just kind of like, and it's so funny because the higher ranking people, you know, they got there by being diplomatic. And so, you know, when you bring up that it's on a baseball field, they're like, oh, that's very original. That's something different. And then it's like, you know, everybody else, all the lower guys are like, this is ridiculous. This should not be happening.
What's that say? Is that get to the farm or got to the farm?
Get
to the farm. You're jumping ahead of the program, brother.
We're getting
hold
there.
Hold on.
We're getting there.
Let me vent for a minute, please.
Whole show's gonna be about that. We're just catching up.
To me, it was disrespectful. It was disrespectful to the Marines that were there, to the Marines that served before, and to the guest speaker that was there because the audio was horrible and couldn't even hear him. And I was 75 yards from him, not even.
I don't even think that far.
You know,
he was in between first and second base, so weren't that far. Sorry, just got here. It's fine. Welcome, by the way.
Welcome. Yes, I hope you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. But, you know, we did that, but, you know, it's at the end of the day, I had to look at it as Yeah, they really hosed a lot of the traditions and the customs and the stuff when it comes to with the ball. But at the end of the day, I got to be at the Marine Corps ball with my son and all of his buddies, who are basically my adopted sons now.
And we got to meet one of their mothers.
We got to meet a mom.
Yeah.
And which
that we
really
probably normally wouldn't have gotten.
Would have never have met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She came from California. How are the ladies supposed to walk around? Oh, let me tell you, because I'm one of the ladies. So we knew ahead of time that it was going to be, well, we were told it was going to be at the baseball stadium. And so the running joke was, how are you going to do this in the grass? And I jokingly made, the suggestion to my son. I said, well, I guess I'm not wearing any spiky heels. I will have to wear platform heels, something that's, wide, that I have a little bit of a base. And so that's what I did. And if you see pictures, we have pictures set up on Facebook that we've shared. You'll notice that my shoes do not match my dress. And that is because it was the only pair I had that was practical enough to put with the dress that would not make me kill myself.
Because Robin was stressing about it the whole time. I'm like, baby, don't worry about it. There is no way that the Marine Corps, the command, is going to have the Marine Corps ball out on a baseball field.
And here's the other reality, guys. It's the middle of November, and it's after the sun goes down. So it was cold, and they expect you to be in an evening gown. Most evening gowns do not have sleeves. Now, they may be long into the ground, but there's no sleeves. Most of them are strapless, whatever. So here we are outside in 50-degree weather with our shoulders exposed. So I last minute was looking around for something to put over my shoulders and finally said, to heck with it, can't find anything, I'll just make something. So I had a little crocheted throw that I threw over my shoulders when when the breeze would start going. And one thing that I thought was funny is I kept making the comment that the stadium lights were putting off heat, and nobody believed me on that. But did you notice how cool it got when they turned them off to play the video? The temperature dropped. As soon as they put those back on, we were kind of okay, but it was just, I hate to say this, but it was like trailer park is what it reminded me of. Like that caliber. And it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be, like, if any of you've ever been to like a really fancy New Year's Eve party, like that's what it's supposed to be like, where there's like, there's supposed to be a cake that, everybody, it's just, there's all this different stuff, and it was not. And obviously by the end of the night, my feet were, I was miserable by the time I got home because I was having to, make sure I didn't slip. And then so you're supposed to have a dance floor for everybody to dance because Marines like to dance, right? After they've had a little bit to drink.
We've been known to cut a rug or two.
And so they had this plastic something out on the floor that the poor guys, like, it was just rough. So anyway. But we had a good time.
True Marine Corps fashion, we improvise, adapt, and overcome. So, again, I just looked past all of that the best that I could. And enjoyed the fact that I was there with my son and my adopted boys that are all going to be here Thursday for Thanksgiving.
That was probably the highlight of my night, because when I kept asking Blaze for a head count, I was feeling like he was avoiding answering me as to not hurt my feelings that nobody was coming. And all of a sudden it was like everybody's coming. So I'm like, okay. We don't have to kill some more turkeys.
That's just wrong on so many levels when you say it. like that.
Well, I sent Blaze a picture of all of the turkeys and said, how many of these are getting a part in this year?
But that's a great segue into this week's safety tip. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm mostly talking to the dudes in the room right now. Look, fellas.
Bigger's not always better.
Look, this is, 50 years ago, everybody had a baked turkey, right? Mm-hmm. Well, somebody who is an absolute genius figured out a way for you to be able to fry a turkey. Mm-hmm. Now, gentlemen, let's take the turkey fryer a good distance away from your house, preferably on maybe like some concrete or stuff that's not flammable. And let's not overfill the container with the oil.
Right.
Okay, but the most important thing, gentlemen, let's take some paper towels and kind of dry off the turkey the best you can. The wetter that turkey is, the more snapping, popping, and potentials for a fire you are going to have. Normally this would be where everybody would say just practice common sense.
But we're learning.
But we're learning that common sense ain't too common anymore.
So common.
But, to be honest with you, right off the kick, I would have never thought about patting down the turkey with some paper towels to get rid of that water and stuff either. But that is definitely something that you need to do. Mm-hmm. Because when you go to lower that turkey in, if it's too wet and that water gets into that hot oil, it's going to start acting like a little bit like a volcano and popping and throwing that hot grease up on your hand. And then you're going to, it's just a natural reaction to kind of drop it. And then that's when it just...
Now, I will say, I was going to say something. I just lost that.
There's look, you don't believe me that this happens?
Oh, yeah.
Just Google it on YouTube. And there's all kinds of videos of people burning their house down or their garage down.
The amount of ER visits that happen on Thanksgiving from people using turkey fryers. Like, if anybody wants to look that up, I know it's a statistic. I've seen it before. I just don't know the exact number. But when I tell you that it's higher than you would think, there's a reason. And it's because people don't... They're in a hurry to get things done, and they don't think about this stuff. So please, don't be a statistic.
Yes. So take your time. Plan it out. You have until Thursday. You have plenty of time. Plan it out. Clear out your area where you're going to have your fryer. Make sure you have plenty of make yourself a checklist. Look, I am the king now, especially with this TBI. I have learned that checklists
are your friend.
Are amazing for me. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I have a checklist for everything outside this room, right there by my front door. I have a checklist of everything that I need to do when I turn my tractor off for the day. I have my safety checklist to go over it with grease in it, checking the air filter, all of that. So make yourself a checklist. Make sure, no flammables in the area. Don't overfill the pot. Wipe the turkey down. Dry the turkey off before you put it in there. Put it in there nice and slowly. Have a fire extinguisher on hand just in case something crazy happens. And just, Robin said it perfectly. Take your time. Okay? So I don't want to come back on Sunday after Thanksgiving and kind of hear that some of y'all got like 50-degree burns or something because you didn't make your checklist or God forbid you caught your house on fire or something like that. So please, please, please be careful when frying those turkeys this year. And if you have leftovers and you're close by, I will volunteer as tribute to eat your leftover fried turkey because I absolutely love fried turkey. Can't never get enough. All right, your preparedness. Let's talk prepping. Preparedness tip or point for the week. We've talked about last week, because we were kicking off fire season, we talked about fire safety last week. Well, this week we're going to kind of stay on that same train with the changing of the seasons. And I've always said I'm a firm believer in a bug out bag. It doesn't mean that you are planning to go nomad and head to the woods and live out of this bug out bag. Right. I believe everybody should have a bug out bag in case you didn't do your checklist for your turkey fryer and you burnt your house down. If you have a bug out bag somewhere located safely other than inside the house or in a spot where you can grab and go, you will not be completely tossed in the winds if you have an accidental house fire. So at this time of year, it's time to take your spring and summer clothes out of your bug out bag, switch it into your winter clothes. Yeah. And that goes same way with any of your other gear that you have in there. If you've got more stuff honed in for spring and summer, and stuff for winter, depending on what your climate is and in your area, it's time to take the summer stuff out and time to start putting your winter stuff in. Mm-hmm. And so that way, if
like a thermal blanket, you might not necessarily have that in the middle of the summer. Make sure that if you've used it, just make sure that you have one of those for the winter time.
Long johns.
When I tell you that the thermal blanket saved our butt one year, we had one in a bag in the truck when LaDessa fell in the water.
It was either LaDessa or Carol.
One of them fell in the water.
Filled up their chest waders during trapping season.
And we had to get her out of her clothes because it was cold. And we stripped her down and put that thermal blanket on her. And, I mean, it was important to have that. So definitely make sure when you're looking at your bug out bag that you've changed over, because nobody wants to be walking home in shorts in 30-degree weather. I'm just saying.
No.
So, yeah.
Yep.
You live in a place with snow, keep a spare set of clothes in case you get wet. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And you can get wet just from walking in the snow. Like that outer layer is going to get wet.
Yep.
And so you want to make sure that you definitely have extra socks.
And it's time to put away your rain boots, your little rubber rain boots, and get your neoprene rain boots out, especially if you got in snow. That way your feet keep warm.
Get wet.
If you are a person that can't wear wool socks all year round like I can, it's time to pull out the wool socks. And the reason for the wool is it will pull the moisture away from your feet. Mm-hmm. These are all these things that you need to go through. You should have a summer checklist and a winter checklist for
from sweating. That too.
From your bug out bags and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Same way with your get home bag that's in your vehicle. If you do any far traveling, commuting back and forth to work, or you commute. Look, if you're in the Atlanta area, I shouldn't have to tell you this because we had that disaster, 2014, 2015,
2014.
With the snow, and there was a lot, and it locked down the interstate. Now, look, on a good day, Atlanta is 1 hour away from Atlanta because of the traffic. So there are times, especially here in the South, if we get 5 people with bad case of dandruff, people lose their mind because the white stuff's all over the place. And that can cause, people will panic and people will have accidents, and it could cause you to be stuck in traffic for a long, long period of time. So make sure you check your get home bags, have a blanket in there, have some candles, have some protein bars, lots and lots of water, because you can get dehydrated just as fast, if not faster, in the cold than you can in the summertime. If you are in a place with snow, make sure you got your snow tires on, chains everything that you need for your road safety and everything like that. Okay, so there's your safety prepping tip of the week. We went over the weekly recap. So now it is time for us to get to the show. Mm-hmm. That's just a whole lot of stuff we do in the beginning of the show, isn't it?
And that's what I told you. Look at the time.
All right. So, as the thumbnail, is self-sufficiency a myth? Is it a myth? Right? That's what we want to talk about.
Bring that here.
Now, we got some notes. Well, the first thing that you have to know.
Excuse me, there.
I turned my ringer off, but it still is hard-headed. It still tries. It tries to interrupt. Alexa's rude. I just want y'all to know that. So the very first thing that you have to do with this, as far as knowing if it's a myth or not, is we kind of have to talk about the term.
Yes.
Self-sufficiency and the words self-reliant, self-sustainable, they all get used interchangeably, right? Like, people say, oh, I want to be self-sufficient. Oh, I want to be self-reliant. Oh, I want to be self-sustainable. And they're all thinking the same thing, but there really is a distinction between those terms. Self-sufficiency just means that you can meet your own basic needs on your own.
Short period of time.
On a finite time, like on your own, you can take care of your own needs without any help. Self-sustainable then takes that further and says you can be self-sufficient indefinitely. So that's the big difference between the two. So that's why we didn't try to bite off the big chunk of self-sustainable being a myth. We want to start at self-sufficiency and say, is self-sufficiency realistic? Is it attainable? But before we do that, why do people want to be self-sufficient?
And we're talking about this topic today because one of the reasons that people want to be self-sufficient is when you always see an uptick in gardening, homesteading, bushcraft, preparedness. You always see a peak in the interest when you have situations going on that we have going on right now. You know, our economy is sideways. The government is sideways. The whole world is sideways. And so there are a lot of different reasons why people want to get into this lifestyle, and those are just one. You know, there are some people out there that are frustrated and very concerned about the environment, about all of the pollution and the carbon footprint thing that everybody talks about, and so they want to live a greener lifestyle. They
don't want to necessarily be as much of a consumer as they want to be more of a producer. They want their net, usage. They want it to be lower because they're worried about the environment.
Right. A lot of people get frustrated with the rat race. They want to get back to more of a back to basic lifestyle. They want to kind of slow things down a little bit. They want to, they see, and sometimes it hits them right between the eyes when they're at dinner and they're out in a restaurant, the whole entire family, and then the dad or the mom looks up and the entire family's like this, doing stuff like this, and nobody's communicating. And so, you don't need that back over there, do you? Just put it over here. And so then the mom or the dad's like, wait a minute. I've completely lost touch.
This is ridiculous.
And they start looking at it. And, like I said earlier, some people get concerned with what's going on with the world, the safety that's going on in the world, their own security. And so they want to kind of pull away from society a little bit and be able to produce their stuff themselves.
They're worried about living in cities. Like, that's one of the big things that we've seen, a big mass exodus of people leaving big cities to move out into the country. And it's not necessarily because they want to live out in the country. It's because they're trying to get away from the heavy populated areas, because the more people there are, the more problems you have, right?
And they also don't like the political climate in that in those areas. Look at the mass exodus out of California and New York. Unfortunately, a lot of them ran to Texas and they started running to the South. We just hope they don't bring their voting ways with them. But you know, that's one of the things. They can't stand the political climate. There's a lot of people that you hear on podcasts, and they're talking about moving from blue states to red states, or red states to blue states, blah, 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 blah. You know, so that's a reason why some folks want to come into this lifestyle.
For us, what was the, you know, okay, so Windswept said self-sufficiency doesn't look the same for everyone. Much of it isn't how we live today. Exactly. So, but that's part of why we wanted to talk about this. Because self-sufficiency at its core is taking care of your basic needs without any help. That is the flat out definition. There is no gray area. It's either you can take care of your basic needs by yourself or you can't. So that's why we're asking the question, is this a myth? Because it's no different to me. There's been a lot of, and I'm probably going to step on some toes, and that's okay. But you'll get your toes up. So there is always this conversation that I see go around where people will say homesteading is a state of mind. I have a problem with that. I just do. I have a problem with that, because homesteading is not about thinking about it. It's about doing it, in my opinion. And so either you are canning your food or you're not. You are raising your own food or you're not. You're growing your own vegetables or you're not. It's not. Now I can say you appreciate the idea. The goal is to homestead, but I have a really hard time with people saying, and I guess it's just because everybody's. I'm just going to say this, and I'm just going to say it. To me, it's like a participation trophy. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. I feel like sometimes, look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with people living vicariously through other people that are doing it. Thank you. Thank you. Homesteading is a verb. You are doing it. And so I feel like a lot of people, yes, it is a lifestyle. Thank you. See, my peeps are coming to back me up here. But I feel like homesteading is not, I went to the store and bought some strawberries and I made some strawberry pie filling and I canned it. You were canning. You weren't homesteading. Why do you look like you're about to blow? Do you not agree with me?
Keep talking.
I mean, I feel like exactly what one lost dude said. If it's a lifestyle. Homesteading is a lifestyle. And if you're working towards, self-sufficiency or whatever, that's and again, guys, to be completely honest, homesteading 2 generations ago was called life. It was called living. Like, it wasn't this, trend or this new wave of something. It was how they lived. And so that's kind of where I come at is, if homesteading is a state of mind, then I look like a mental case in my neighborhood. So I guess that's kind of where we were kind of going with this whole self-sufficiency is that everybody talks about wanting to be self-sufficient, but how much are we like watering down the definition so that we can be self-sufficient?
Okay, so before you get us completely back to only having one subscriber, let me ask you this.
There'll be at least 4 in here.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
I look at me. I see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But I think we get hung up on terms way too much. Because, see, if somebody is living in an apartment and they grab the 5-gallon bucket.
What's up, Mel? They're in Hawaii. That's the Hawaii thing.
If somebody was living in an apartment, had a 5-gallon bucket, and they stuck a tomato plant in there and grew it on their patio, and then they didn't have to buy tomatoes for that whole entire season. And if they want to call them a homesteader,
No, they're a gardener.
I'm not going to get offended by that.
I'm not saying I'm getting offended by it. I feel like we're watering down that term to include more people. That's what I'm saying is like, that's where I feel like it's like a participation trophy.
Well, look,
like,
here's my thought. Okay, if I've got to water it down to keep people encouraged and to go like no different than we did, like with Lone Star, he was getting very frustrated with us, and then we did the Grow Foods Not Lawns and showed him that it could be done. Now he's got a bigger homestead than we got.
Right.
But I don't. In all honesty, I don't get hung up on terms. I don't care if you have 3 chickens in a backyard and you got 2 tomato plants and a pepper plant. You want to call yourself a homesteader, then call yourself a homesteader. I don't care. Just keep making that progress until you get to the point to where you can be more sustainable. Because at the end of the day, back in when we first got started and we called ourselves Big Bear Homestead, if we're going by your standards, we weren't really much of a homestead. We were gardeners, because gardeners and beekeepers, and we kept some quail. We
had rabbits and a potbelly pig in the backyard. We had a lot of stuff going on.
We had that potbelly pig because I had a nuisance wildlife removal company, and I had to go fetch it out of underneath a double-wide trailer.
Okay, hold on. Windswept. A friend of ours would turn off all the power and live on just what they had in their home, filtering rainwater and foraging where they could. They would do this once or twice a year. So the whole reason I'm bringing this up.
Okay, well, let's run that rabbit with what they said. Now, does that make that person a homesteader? Because if it does,
if they only do it once or twice a year, no.
Yeah, because we used to do that, but we called that 1800 weekend.
I mean, that's being prepared. That's learning to live off of the stuff that they like, turning everything off to make sure they could still take care of themselves. That to me is not really homesteading. Homesteading is an active thing. And again, like you were saying, we're getting bogged down into terms here. The whole reason I was bringing it up was to kind of show the difference. What we're talking about with self-sufficiency is that either you are or you're not with self-sufficiency.
I don't agree with that.
In the plainest of terms, self-sufficiency means providing all of your basic needs by yourself. And you do agree with that because...
Yes, if you go with the Webster's Dictionary, yes. But you can say, I am self-sufficient in my firewood.
Sure.
I am self-sufficient with tomatoes.
With qualifiers, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, you can. But all of your basic needs, is it a myth to be self-sustainable or self-sufficient by yourself?
By yourself. Yes, it's a myth.
Okay. That's where I'm going with this. Yeah. Troom Homestead works your butt. Right.
Yes.
So, but at the end of the day, self-sufficiency, in our opinion, because we've talked about this ad nauseum in the car and everywhere else, is not completely
there he is. I was just talking about you, homie.
And you know what, and I want to go back to that for a second now that he's in here. I would venture to say that when he first started and he was just growing a gardener, I don't think that Jonathan would have called himself a homesteader. I think he would have called himself a gardener that was aspiring to set himself up for a homestead.
And again, I think we just getting hung up on terms. Look, here's the raw gospel truth of what I think. The reason why we have this YouTube channel is to empower people, to teach. This is the reason why Robin wrote her book. This is the reason why I wrote my book, which is out, by the way, www.bigbearhomestead.com. You can
/shop.
Well, the reason why we have the website with all the informative stuff, because I'll be 100% honest with you. It's selfish, the reason why I do it. Okay? I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to make $1 million with this stuff. Now, granted, make $1 million, that would be nice. Okay? Fame? I don't know about that. I see how some of my famous people have to go about doing stuff. I don't know if I want that. But I want to empower people to be able to really enjoy the taste of freedom. To really, and the other thing, I don't want you at my gate. Okay, if things go super sideways, I don't want you at my gate. I'm going to be stressed out to the max anyway, taking care of my family and people in my community, helping do my part with that. I don't want you at my gate. I want you to be a active participant in change to make this world a better place. And if it makes you feel good to call yourself a homesteader and you got a bucket and you're taking those steps, I'm not gonna jump up and down and scream, "No, you're not a homesteader," because actually you're still doing something. So you're still participating with the verb. You're still doing stuff. And I think too many people get hung up on words. Now, to be and where I think that's, and the reason why I'm running this rabbit is because no different with how we started this conversation with how the words self-sufficient and self-sustainable, they get those words. People are trying to put too much emphasis on those words. Like, y'all remember a couple maybe it was a year or so ago, when people were getting hung up on it. Well, no, you're not a homesteader, you're a hobby farmer. And, you only have X amount, so you can only be a hobby farmer, not a homesteader. Who gives a rat's butt what they call themselves? In all honesty, I want to applaud you for making that effort. Even Mark down there at Self-Sufficient Me, what it says on his thing is basically you can't be self-sufficient in everything, but be self-sufficient in something, right? So we started out giving the definition of the terms, and this whole conversation went completely in a different direction than what we thought it was going to go. Because I honestly believe there's too much weight put in those terms. Now, is being self-sufficient a myth? Well, what's the time frame are we talking? Are you talking about being self-sufficient for a week, self-sufficient for a month, self-sufficient for a year? Because in those terms, you could stock up enough of just about everything and claim to be self-sufficient for that year. Where it really flips and messes with people's minds, and where this is where the definitions come into play, because a lot of people think that you're self-sufficient because you can take care of yourself basically until the day that you die. Well, no, that's being more sustainable, self-sustainable, self-reliant. And that, my friends, is a myth. Even with having 5 people here on our homestead. Because, see, I used to think that way. You know, I just would always tell them, I'm going to be self-sufficient. I'm going to be
self-sustainable.
Self-sustainable. Yeah. I wanted to be that, you know, but as I started down this path, and this is where it's like you have a light bulb moment. You have a light bulb moment. To where you start to realize how many different hats you have to wear in order to be self-sustainable. You know, you're going to have to put on a plumbing hat, an electrical hat, a gardener hat, animal husbandry hat, a mechanic's hat,
veteran's hat,
a
veterinarian
hat. All these different hats, and there's just not enough time in the day to wear all those hats.
That is correct. And everybody has kind of, you know, jumped into what we were kind of getting to, which is that you can't do it all by yourself. And I like what Lost Dude said. He said, you know, I don't see. He said, what's the definition? No one can be truly self-sufficient. I don't see homesteaders making shoes or clothes. Now, I will beg to differ with you on that, just a teeny bit. Because one of our goals is to be able to make moccasins for around the house. Now, they're not going to be fancy tread shoes that, you know, but we can make moccasins out of leather and then take old tire tracks and put them on the bottom if we wanted that. And as far as making our own clothes, we do some of that, and there are homesteaders out there that do so. The issue becomes is that that's one of those things where people don't necessarily show you a bunch of that. I mean, there are several channels out there that's all they do is they make their own clothes. So, you know, but I think that's one of those things that, you know, every year we make our own hats, you know, and that's another, like, some people make their own soap, you know. There's so many different things that you would have to be self-sufficient in that it is, in our opinion, it is a myth. It's impossible to do it all for yourself.
Well, I got a prime example. Now, you're going to have to help me remember. What was the name of that guy who he claimed he was a Marine? I don't know him. But he lived up there, because didn't he live up there by Rain Country and them, and they used to see him in the store all the time?
Oh, he was on one of those homesteading, the shows, like Wild.
Like the Discovery Channel or something.
Yeah.
He lived up there in Washington State, and he supposedly lived in the woods the whole time, and he basically just kept a few memoirs, and he would just stomp around up there in that the tropics up there in Washington State. What was that guy's name?
I can't remember.
But anyway, they were trying to make it out to where this guy was just completely self-sufficient. He took care of every need he had. But as the show went on, they showed him bartering with other folks to get clothes, and he would go and do manual labor stuff to be able to go get money to be able to go buy things that he needed. So it was kind of really showing the fact that not one person can be self-sufficient.
Exactly. So, let's see. So
Canterbury Dave. That's him, isn't it? I think so. No,
Canterbury.
Dave Canterbury is a different guy. He's the one who does the bushcraft stuff.
No, this was, I can't remember his name. So Lone Star says, let's be 100% honest. No single man family can be fully self-sufficient. There's too many things, and that's exactly. Windswept says, kind of like the story Stone Soup. Everyone has something to contribute that can help benefit everyone.
Hey, what was that guy's name that we used to watch on TV that lived up there in Washington that was supposed to be a Marine and he was always walking around barefoot up in the tropics, up in the rainforest up there? He had
In
a
Washington
big beard
State.
in Washington State.
I don't know. So, Get to the Farm says, in Montana, you need more than 20 acres per animal just for grazing. You just gotta buy hay. You would need too much land just for that if you wanted to grow your own feed, grain, or wheat for flour. Yes, and that's true. That's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
Mel says, my friends call my place a zarm. It's not quite a zoo and not quite a farm. I grow veggies, 3 chickens, 3 rabbits, a duck, a tortoise, 6 dogs, and a cat. I used to have 200 quails too. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you know, and that's another thing. Like, you talk about terms, like, some people, you know, some people who are farmers don't like homesteaders calling themselves farmers. Like, I mean, there's so many different distinctions. It's just crazy. So anyway, so that's kind of, you know, what we wanted to talk about was what is everybody's, you know, spin on this? Why, you know, what do you think as far as homesteading? Is it something that, you know, is attainable, or is it something that has to be done through community? But the big thing that after we get to that point, if your goal is to be as self-sufficient as possible, you know, what does that look like?
So how do you go about?
Yeah,
how do you go about doing that? Because look, if you're one of the lucky people, you know, that have like a gazillion dollars just floating around, and you can go and buy the land, and then buy the cows, then buy the pigs, and buy the chickens, and buy all the structures, and just be able to just boom, just fall right into it. I'm happy for you, but you're going to be selling all of that stuff off within a year or so because you're going to just be overwhelmed.
And we've experienced that. That's how we got our farm. Because we went from the people that lived here, they you know, bought the land, put the stuff on it, and then didn't know what to do with it. And they got overwhelmed super quick, which then made them miserable. And when you're miserable, you don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Lost Dude, yes, I think he was on Nat Geo. Yes.
I don't remember. I just remember him being on a boat, like, going through the creeks, like, and he was barefooted and his hair was everywhere.
Yeah. So how do you go about, how do you think that you could go about doing this? Well, 1, don't get hung up on the terms. 2, start small. Set yourself small goals. Like, you know, say, I'm going to try and grow tomatoes this year, or I'm going to try and grow lettuce this year.
And let it be something realistic. Let it be something that you can attain. Because at the end of the day, every goal and every step, if you keep following through with those, is going to get you to your final destination, right? So, you know, it's not just about, like, with a lot of people with self-sufficiency, they think, oh, I got to provide my own power, and I got to provide my own food.
That's the number 1 thing. If you ask 100 people out there what if somebody was self-sufficient, what did that mean? And they would probably describe an off-the-grid lifestyle to you, that they would think that they made their own power, they grew their own food.
Well, we've fallen into that ourselves. We'll introduce ourselves to people and we're like, oh, we're doing our best to have a self-sufficient farm. And the very first thing they ask us, oh, you're off-grid? No, not off-grid. That's the very first thing that people go to. Yeah. And if you think that that's what it is, and keep in mind, a lot of people, when they go from being where they're at, where they rely heavily on grocery stores, the government, the gas stations, the light switch to come on. Like when you're starting to rely on all that stuff, and then you go to the opposite of having to do everything for yourself. One of the guys said that being self-sufficient, you work your butt off. And so if you go from being dependent on everything being right at your fingertips to then having to get it yourself, that's a hard shift. And if you're not prepared for that, if you're not, getting yourself ready for that, that can be a problem. First and foremost, why must you be
a label?
A label.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Well, guys, we're pretty much out of time for tonight, so I want to give you guys your Bible verse for the week. Those of you that are members, we will continue this conversation in the after show. If you're not a member and you're like, what are you talking about? You can go ahead and hit that join. The Panda and above, the Panda and the Kodiak Bears, they get to be a part of a 30-minute after show after this live stream. We usually kick it off about 5 to 10 minutes after this live stream, and we continue.
We usually dig a little bit deeper. We go a little bit more into depth on what we've been talking about. Just get a little deeper.
Yeah. So this week's Bible verse is coming out of the book of Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. So basically that's God telling us He knew us before we were even born. He knew how many hairs we were going to have on our head, and that He loved us, and He ordained us before we were even born. So thank y'all for coming and hanging out with us this evening. We appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to check out our sponsors in the links in the description. Some of them have coupon codes that go along with them, so definitely check those out. Don't forget to check out our website, www.bigbearhomestead.com, and then you can go /shop, where you can
see all the fun stuff
we've got. Homemade soaps, crocheted items, our books, all those kinds of things. So until next Saturday, don't forget, if you want to be on the email list to get your notifications due to the overwhelming shadow banning that most of the homesteaders and preparedness people are facing right now on social media. If you guys still want to see our videos and our shorts and our content, hey, shoot us that email saying that you want to be part on that email list, because we will be starting that this week, so you don't want to miss out on that. So until next week, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us.
What?
That's what you're supposed to say. God bless.
Oh, God bless y'all. I'm not used to that. It's a different wind-up than the videos. I'm sorry. Yes, and I don't want that to be a thing. God bless all of y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your night and the rest of your weekend. Remember, rest. Get a little bit of rest in before we start the crazy week next week, known as Thanksgiving week.
Don't eat too much. Remember the safety tip. Fellas, be careful with those turkey fryers.
Yep.
So, everybody, thanks for coming. Good night. We love y'all. God bless. And we'll see y'all next week. Now, this is also the part of the show where I whisper, because we have to give time for the end screen. And I want to tell you guys how much we really love and appreciate you. And don't forget to go to our website to check out that store. It really helps us to be able to continue to put out this content and everything like that. And don't forget, next week we'll be back and we will dig a little bit deeper into this topic of being self